Hello everybody and welcome to the part 5 and maybe now the final part of the systems programming introduction. So today we'll be going over some more C programming and yeah, let's get started. So here I am. I'm gonna go into my tutorial 5 directory and I'm gonna create a new C file, so main.c, and just let it load. There we go. So first of all, I'm gonna do the same things I did last time. So include studio.h int main hello world turns 0 and end. Alright, so here we got our hello world, but this time we're gonna talk about variables and iteration and selection in C. So this is not as much of like learning exactly how the computer works, it's just learning the basics of C syntax so that you can later then develop C skills. Let me zoom in quickly. Alright, so first of all, to create a variable, like we briefly mentioned last time, it's statically typed. So let's say if I want an integer, I have to specify it's an int. So over here, let's int number equals to 1 semicolon. So this is how I would define a variable. Then let's say I want to change the variable. So the next time I want to change the same variable, I do number equals 10, like that. Right? Now, let's say I want to increment the number by 1, so I can do number equals number plus 1, just like normal. Or C also has a short form for plus equals 1, or it even has plus plus. Plus plus simply means increase by 1. Now to do if conditions, I can do an if, and in brackets I put the boolean. So in brackets I say if number is greater than 1, printf. Oh wait, sorry, that's not it. There we go. And now you have to create printf one, and now you can simply do an else if you want it to just be else, or you can even do an else if number is less than 1, then what you want to simply do is printf is less than 1, and otherwise it's equal. Right, so this is how you do else ifs, and else you do else space if and then put the parameter, or you can just do else. And yeah, so let's run this code. We should get numbers equals to 1. So so gcc, because that's our compiler, so gcc main.c, and it creates the new file, and then you gotta execute it. So /a.out numbers equal to 1. It shouldn't be equal than 1, just a silly grammar mistake, but yeah. So number is equals to 1. Now let's talk about iteration. So first of all, the most basic one, the most common one for while loops. So let's have something like a counter equals 0 while. You can now do while, and in the same way as an if condition, you put the parameter for the while loop in here. So let me do while in brackets counter less than 10, and then close brackets, and now the curly braces. So while counter is less than 10, printf counter printf counter than 10. Oh, something I also didn't specify is how to print out numbers per se. So you can, the printf operator, the printf function is a special function that lets you pass an infinite amount of parameters. So your first parameter has to be a string. Over here, you specify all the other variables you want to pass in. So in my case, I'm gonna do this string is number is a colon mark, and then I'm gonna do so semicolon space percentage D. This represents that I want to format a number in this position. And I'm just putting the new line character at the end. So now since I specified colon percentage D, it expects me to put one number as a parameter. So I'm gonna then percent %D stands for integer. So I have to put an integer as another parameter into the printf. So it should look like so the output should be number is value. So that's how it should end up looking. Also, like I did mention earlier, but comments are double slash. Alright, so let's see how this works. I have to make sure to increment the counter. So I can do that with counter plus plus. Oh, and I have to give this a type. There we go. Let's see how it runs. So, Python, sorry. Ignore me for a second. There we go. Number is equals to. Wait a moment. What? What's going on? Oh, what am I doing? For some reason I did number is number. It should be counter. Give me a second. That was just a stupid mistake. Alright, so counter is percentage D, and then you pass in counter as the parameter. So, yep, it should work out. GCC may not see. And look at that. It prints it from 1 to 9. Now, if you want a for loop, because this is just, like there's no point of having 3 separate lines for, like, counter, while counter is less than 10, counter plus plus, like in other languages how there's a for loop, there's syntax for it in C2. So for, in curly braces, you put all, in the normal parentheses, you put all the parameters. So over here, you create the integer, so int I equals 0, and then you do a semicolon, and then another statement, while I is less than 10, semicolon, and I plus plus. So what does this all mean? Okay, so first in this, we define the variable first, so int I equals 0. Then this is the condition that it keeps going until. So on the second part you say I less than 10 because you want it to keep going until I is 10, just like we did in the while loop. And the third condition is what you want to run on every time. So in our case I plus plus because we want the I to increment. Alright, so let's now just do the same thing. So now I is percentage D N, and you can do I close braces semicolon, and there you go, voila. So if I run this gcc .c and we get the same output, but with a lot with a much shorter syntax, right? So now I'm gonna quiz you guys. How do I create a basic function that takes a number and raises it to the power of 2, for example? That should be very simple. So int power of 2, and now in the parameters we have to do an int n. Reason this is an int function is because this returns an integer. So now all we have to do is return n times n, right? Simple as that. Now we could just do printf power to see if this is working. So wait, first you have to have your formatting. So power let's say 10 or 15 to the power of 2 is percentage d slash n, comma power of 2 15. Alright, let's test this out. So what should happen is it raises 15 to the power of 2 with this function, and it prints 15 to the power of 2 is 225. And there it is. Alright, thanks for watching another tutorial. I hope we covered some of the most core syntax And if I get around to making another one, we'll go over data types next in C. Thank you.